Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. Today I want to talk about wiring. Wiring for the Livescope versus wiring for my Lowrance carbon units that I have on my boat. I have a 12-inch carbon at the console, I have a 12-inch carbon on the bow, along with my 1222 Garmin graph that I run my Livescope with. And I've wired these a little bit differently than I normally wire in my boat because of the black box needed for the Garmin. So we're going to move back to the back of the boat, show you how I started with my wiring. All right, the different types of wires, most are plastic coated, like these two red wires. These are plastic coated wires, but I use a rubber coated wire. It's actually battery cable wire. Three different sizes that I've got here that I've been just kind of experimenting with, playing. This is 8 gauge. What you'll find is most guys run 10 gauge from the back of the boat all the way to the front. I opted to go with something a little bit bigger. Like I said, this is, when you go from 10 is a little bit smaller than this. This is 8. Then you have 6 gauge, and then I do have some 4 gauge. 4 gauge is, you can see this is really big. When you compare to my hands, that is a huge wire. I didn't use the 4 gauge. I opted out of that. These are my two options. That I wanted to mess around with was the 8 and the 6 gauge. I opted to go with 6 gauge. Now, 6 gauge wire, I went with rubber coated battery cable. I got one red, one black. They run from my battery in the back of my boat all the way to the front. Then I did my connections in the front up there, but I did use a disconnect in the back of the boat, which I'll show you now. All right, in the back of my boat here, I have this wire right here is my rubberized wire, my red wire. It comes directly from, and this goes from my positive. It goes into a disconnect box right here with my on-off switch. Then coming out of the bottom of that box is another one that comes out. It goes and goes all the way up underneath, goes to the front of the boat up there. The negative wire right here, black, it then goes to the front, and it does not have to go through this disconnect box. So I only run one wire in here, and that is the positive. So this is my on-off. Of course, I have my trolling motor and my power poles also on a disconnect. My battery here, my battery of choice is a Monster Marine Lithium. It is 120 amp hour. As you can see, it's 1300 cold cranking amps. It is a beast, and it starts my Mercury 250 two-stroke really well. They actually call this battery the Scorpion. Like I said, 1300 cold cranking amps, 120 amp hours, great battery. I really like it. The charger there, I've got a charger here in the bottom that's dedicated just to that battery. And on the other side, right now I'm running the Duracell batteries, but soon fix me Monster Marine batteries over there also, and I'll change that charger out soon. So let's look at the next part. Okay. All right, the biggest problem I had with wiring my boat was when I was using the 8 gauge wire going from back to front. I thought, man, that's not going to connect very easily with connectors. So I said, never mind, I'm going to go to 6 gauge. So then I went up to, that's when I was playing with 8, and I went to 6 gauge. When I went to 6 gauge, I said, man, because I got to connect it anyways, I had a couple of options. One I found was actually with stereo system. It is an inline fuse that I connected with this. I could put my 6 gauge wire in one side, and coming into the other side, I ran the wire for my black box and my my graph, both of my graphs up front. So they're directly wired into my hot wire through one of these boxes right here. Another option of connecting these wires, and of course this is connected with the 8 gauge. This was an 8 gauge wire that I had here. It's an older wire, just to show you. They have inline connectors like these, and going from 8 to 8 is great, but when you're going to the smaller wires that come with your power source for your graphs and the black box, they're much smaller. So you got to have a way to put those together, reduce the size. Some people are going through, like I said, inline fuses like these. My choice was this inline fuse because I could connect several wires into one. Worked out good for me, and I get a power source, continual power source to the front. All right, and what I've done, if you can see up under here, I'll reach up under, we're in my locker box here. Let me see if I can pull these down. There's my red and black wires. They run underneath, all the way from the back. When I came out up here, if I can pull them back out of here for you. A lot of work getting them in there, to be honest with you. But these wires run up to the front. That's where I made the connection with those two fuses. And then here on the sidewall, connect to my Livescope. Tried to roll all the wires up, make them nice and neat. So from my box view, you can see everything's out of the way. Everything looks pretty clean to me. And nothing, I can put all my stuff back in here. All right, up front, you can see I have my 12-inch Garmin, my Carbon 12, and I got a homemade mount bracket. A friend of mine made that for me. I painted it up. We bolted the floor over the pedal, and it works. Kind of demoed up here. Yeah, it's not the cleanest paint job, but for me, we're just demoing it up just to kind of show you the shape. Works nice. Gets them up off the floor. Put the trolling motor in the water, and the cables here, they'll fold up, go right over the top, doesn't interfere with anything. Of course, you can see my transducer up there. It works out. Hopefully this helped. I know it was a quick rundown. Just wanted to give you some details there. I've loved my graph setup. Right now with that Monster Marine battery, I've been able to run 13.7 to 13.3 volts at all times. We run our graphs from 5 in the morning to about usually off the water around 3 on tournament day. They're going the whole time. Now, of course, when you run your outboard motor, I know you get a little charge in there, and that also helps. But there's been days when we cranked the motor one time, went to where we're going, and we're trolling the rest of the day. So we don't have that motor helping charge that cranking battery back up. And still, we've had no problems running those two graphs on the front. The graph on the console, on the other hand, does run through the switch panel and the power that is supplied through the power supply of the switch panel. It's not run through the disconnect that I run the front two graphs on. So I can cut the power off to that graph on the back on the console and run the two on the front, and vice versa. That I can leave that power switch off on the front two, and I can flip power onto this one on the console. So I can kind of run those separately if I wanted to. Like if it was a day of just riding around graphing, we're not even getting on the front of the boat, I can just run the one on the console. I don't even turn that power switch on to the front too. Most days though, you know, like everybody else, we're running 3 graphs. Some people running 4. This is how we wired it up. We are super pleased with it. Super pleased with the Monster Marine lithium batteries. Been great to us. And I think going with the 6-gauge rubber coated wire, to me, was the big deal for keeping our electronics running all day long. Thanks for checking in with us. We'll see you next time.